Welcome, everybody. This is GED report number 8, and I'm bringing up a topic that I wanted to bring up with you last time, but it would have been its own podcast and wouldn't really have made sense to do it all last time. Let me remind you again, we are sponsored by TFT Travel Group for small group trips to South America. We are going to Quito, Ecuador in July, and the small group experience in a country where you don't speak the language and you have to struggle a little bit and learn, that's the kind of immersive cultural experience that TFT Travel Group provides. Surrogate activities. Surrogate is a word that means something in replacement of the real thing, or something to take the place of the actual person or thing or event or concept. Surrogate is not necessarily a faker, like it's something that's awful, but it is something that takes the place of something that would have more legitimacy or more weight in the equation, so to speak. So I'm talking about surrogate activities, and it came to mind because sometimes these things that go through my head, or remember I've always told you about recognizing patterns. These kinds of things come through in patterns, and I see them repeatedly, and I notice that if I were to pay more attention to them, it would be advice to myself. So I'm taking my own advice and sharing them with you and incorporating some of these practices in my actual day-to-day life. Now, what I'm talking about with the surrogate activity thing is things that people do, activities that people do during the day, oftentimes during the days, during the week, which then add up to months. And then when you look up, it's been years of doing an activity that has had no benefit to you whatsoever. Now, I don't necessarily mean that everything you do has to have some kind of end game and it's got to be a lucrative entrepreneur project. You know, there are things that you're going to do that are enjoyable. For example, I happen to like sports. I like pro basketball a lot. I like baseball, college basketball, football, and watching those sports and paying attention to them and looking at basketball and baseball statistics, which I do a lot, puts no money in my pocket and doesn't add up to a final goal. There's no culminating activity with me going to basketballreference.com and knowing who's leading the league in rebounding. However, if I did spend 4 hours a day combing over baseball statistics and basketball statistics, at some point you would say there needs to be something more to this. Maybe it's time to parlay that into a job or to start a website and explain your findings. There should be some output. There should be some tangible or semi-tangible benefit. If it puts money in your pocket, that's even better, but that may not be the case. Well, the surrogate activity thing came up because I was talking with somebody about social media. And I had a quote, let me find it here, that I read in a Tim Ferriss book, and it was a quote from Stephen Pressfield. And Pressfield says some interesting things, and it's a long quote. The end of it is very good. Pressfield says, quote, "Bad advice is everywhere. Build a following, establish a platform, learn how to scam the system. In other words, do all the surface stuff and none of the real work it takes to actually produce something of value. The disease of our times is that we live on the surface." And that really hit hard to me because you hear a lot these days about marketing, and marketing is important. But marketing isn't the do-all, end-all of a business or a project. And one of the things you hear a lot now, maybe it was the same back in the olden days, but what you hear now is if a product isn't selling or someone isn't making a profit, that, oh, well, we have to change the marketing, or we're not marketing well enough. Maybe you need to go back to the thing of substance, the product or the service itself, and work on that. Maybe your marketing is fine. It's just that your product or service isn't up to snuff and no one is buying what you're selling. right? But everybody talks about the surface stuff, the marketing, the brand, establish a platform. The brand thing is totally ridiculous. What really irks my nerves, the most thing, and I remember you're talking to somebody who likes pro basketball. Like, I'm a big fan, but you'll hear pro basketball players who make between the lowest paid basketball players make $2 million a year and the highest paid ones make over $30 million a year. And they're talking about establishing a brand. Well, if you're pulling down $15 million a year, your brand is already established. And the only reason why people are paying attention to you is because you're a pro basketball player. And so the brand is already 2/3 of the way done, 3/4 of the way complete. Nobody would pay attention to very few of those people unless they were professional basketball players. And good for them. I wish I were a professional basketball player. That didn't work out. Hello. But the brand thing and the platform, and like it says here in Pressfield's quote, right? Learn how to scam the system, do all the surface work, and not the real work. The real work is creating something wonderful, something tangible, artistic, and forthright and valuable. And the next quote goes into the surrogate activity meme, the surrogate activity theme of this talk. And that is the part of the Pressfield quote that really made me sit up is this part where he says, quote, I always say, this is Pressfield talking now, if you want to become a billionaire, invent something that will allow people to indulge their own resistance. Somebody did invent it. It's called the internet, social media. Real work and real satisfaction comes from the opposite of what the web provides. And that is a distillation of so much of what our world is about today. And I'm trying to really, as your teacher, your freelance teacher, the person who's seen this kind of thing since the mid-1990s, is that quote explains what people are doing for hours at a time. They've shown, especially with social media, that it is truly a surrogate activity. Getting likes on a post is probably one of the more useless things you could do. Even video games, and think about this. Pressfield talks about resistance. People want to create something. Most people want to write a book or create a piece of art or design a video game or become a star in a sport or become an academic valedictorian. People want to do things. People don't want to be incomplete. But what they're doing instead of going towards that goal is something that has no meaning. And the number of likes on a social media post is, in effect, meaningless. It doesn't get you anything. There's no end game to this. And people talk about video games and watching sports, and in the same vein, they are correct. The difference is that with playing video games, at least you're entertained, right? At least you're having fun. And I don't recommend playing video games much at all. I like video games. I played when I was younger, and I'll probably get back into the gaming world at some point. It looks very exciting. However, if you're playing video games, and I had a student like this, I had a client that played during the week 4 to 6 hours a day after school every day. And then on the weekends, it was a good 10 to 15 hours a day of playing video games. And that's not an exaggeration. I'm not making that up. That's not hyperbole. That was the real story. So Pressfield talks about resistance, right? And here it says again, right? You want to be a billionaire, invent something that will allow people to indulge their own resistance. Pressfield's shtick, his main topic, his main focus is resistance. And what that is when we, and I include myself in this, do the things that block us from creating the things that we want to, from being the whole person that we could be, from being the fully formed, the fully capable human that we could do. Think of all the fantastic things you've wanted to do or projects you've wanted to complete, and you haven't done it. Why not? Sometimes there are legitimate excuses in terms of life getting in the way. But if you're on Snapchat or Facebook or Instagram all the time getting likes, you have given your resistance. You've given the thing that is blocking you food for months, if not years. And it's those activities that are not the real activities that you should be doing. You should be writing your novel, or you should be creating an ACT exam class online so that people can take your class for $25 rather than for $160 an hour. That's me. That's what I've finally gotten around to. I don't exempt myself from any of this stuff. I'm 46. I should have put my ACT class online 5 years ago. So now, here I am taking my own advice. And there's something even more dangerous with the social media thing. And I had a Facebook account for 13 years. I deleted it last month. I have 2 Instagram accounts, and I'm careful. First of all, I don't find it overly exciting, but I'm careful not to go on Instagram for hours at a time. I think I go on something like 10 minutes a day. And I have 2 accounts. One is for the travel business that sponsors this program, coincidentally. I also have a Twitter account. And Twitter is just a sandbox filled with lice and sand fleas and ticks. Twitter is about useless. But for entertainment, if I'm bored in a meeting or am in a conference and we have a break, I'll go on Twitter and jump into the mud pile and sling mud and have a food fight with the rest of them. And that's it. What I'm talking about, what Pressfield right here, as you can see, is people indulge in their resistance. People are going to do, and you may be one of these people who does this stuff for hours on end. And it's costing you. It's costing you your life's work. It's costing you something of substance. And where I was saying earlier about the perniciousness, the danger of social media, is this article here, where they've linked social media triggering a dopamine high. This is the American Marketing Association. I think it should be the American Medical Association, the AMA. I have a funny feeling it might be the same thing. And look at what it says. Social media affects the brain in the same way that a hug does. Here's how it works and what marketers can do about it. And what it does is it rewards you in the same way that drugs reward you if you get likes. And I don't have any reason to doubt this at all. A, because I've heard it from other places, and B, because I know how social media works, as do you. People are obviously online fishing for likes and doing not much else. Everybody has a friend or someone they know. I have a former student who's in her late 30s now, and she probably posts on Instagram, I'm guessing, 25 posts a day. And that's probably mellow. There are probably people out there who know people who do more than that. Facebook was the same way. People would post and post and post about political things. And I'm a public school teacher, so I had the displeasure of watching people post about how Trump was a stooge of the Russians, and that's all they do. Orange man bad was their entire Facebook life, and you can see my NPC podcast earlier, right? They didn't really have anything to say, but they knew that Orange Man was bad, and they used social media and got many likes by just saying over and over again, Orange Man bad. They didn't have anything of substance. There was rarely anything talking about topics. If there was a topic, it was the same topic that was going on during the Obama administration that didn't bother them then. It really was just a cesspool of nonsense. And think about what I just talked about. All of these activities, Snapchat, Facebook, posting, Instagram, years and years. How much time are people spending doing surrogate activities? Right? That's the title of this. How much time is spent doing this stuff? They're fake activities. And the internet is a wonderful thing, but allowing yourself to do nothing but activities that are just digital and have no substance. They're just ephemeral. And as a last point, think of it this way. Because we talked this way in the 1980s, remember? It was about star culture and People magazine and the Enquirer and this obsession with Hollywood and stars. And that's still going on, but when you layer on the social media aspect and the internet aspect of it now, it's completely mental. And it has caused what you see in front of you now, which are armies of people, millions of people who do nothing but post on the internet. They do nothing but search for likes. Think about the lost human potential. Think about the things that could be getting done. Think about the things that maybe you as a high school student could do better rather than going on Snapchat and playing video games all the time. So these are things that, and then here's the other thing I was alluding to earlier. What if the power went out? What if there's an EMP attack where the power goes out and there's no phone service and there's no power to charge your phone? What do you actually have? Do you even have books on paper in your house? Do you have anything that you've created? The 10,000 likes that you got, or the 23,000 followers you got on Instagram, when the power is out and your phone isn't working, those things don't exist. They're nothing. At some point, maybe you should go out and talk with regular people, build something that you can actually touch, go to a bookstore and buy a book and read it cover to cover of whatever you like. It could be a trashy romance novel, a graphic novel, could be War and Peace. Doesn't matter what it is. Try those things. And then maybe, rather than have just these surrogate activities control your life, have something that is with a little bit more substance come out of you, rather than just crazy gluing your face to your phone, staring at it and thinking that that's real life and those are real activities. But they're not. Those are surrogate activities. And it's time maybe you change, maybe I do even more changing and learning, and we create something more productive together. All right, that's it for the GED report number 8. I'm going to see you next time. We'll talk about more things, and I plan on talking about why I deleted my Facebook account after having one for 13 years. Okay, so I'll go more into that. It's a sordid, sorry tale that will probably bore you to tears, but I think it's worth it. Okay, talk to you soon.